Hi everybody, my name's Laurie Mangold and I'm here to do a skill builder on strip piecing. What is strip piecing? Well, it's basically what it says. You're going to take a couple strips of fabric and you're going to put them together and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam. And then we're going to take, and I'll go into more detail, and then we're going to take, and usually they are subcut into pieces and then resewn. So a couple of things I just want to show you. Strip piecing became very popular with the invention of the jelly roll or the honey buns or the belly pops. All the different companies named them different things, okay? And essentially a jelly roll is 42 strips that are cut 2.5 inch wide. So you have all these strips and all these luscious colors already cut for you. And I have another one here that's a polka dots. That's super fun. And then depending on your pattern, I just want to show you a few things you can do with strip piecing. So here's a great pattern made with strips. Here's another one that's super fun. Here is yet another one. Look at this one. I love this one. Okay. And look at the tulips, how fun that one is. And then there are also books. So this book is very what we call pre-cut friendly. A jelly roll is pre-cut. And there are a ton of different quilts in here that you can make using strips. And the strip piecing just makes the process go a lot faster. So let's explore what strip piecing is and kind of the basics. So you're going to be told in your pattern how wide to cut your strips, and they can be as little as 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, all the way up to 4, 5, 6, 7 inches. And you're going to take the two of them that you're told and you're going to put them right sides together, okay? Now, a couple of things. If you have pre-cut strips, we do not recommend pre-shrinking because then they won't be 2.5 inches wide anymore and they'll get all distorted. If you are starting with fabric and cutting your own strips, we recommend pre-shrinking the fabric and then clean cutting and cutting nice straight strips with that, okay? So however you get your strips. Now, jelly rolls and a lot of your pre-cut strips have a pinked edge, meaning it's got little triangles. And you have to, when you're lining up those edges, it's a little trickier to know, well, do I go to the points or do I go inside the points? And essentially you have to go to the edge of the points. So we're going to put this right sides together. And this is where your power sewing can come in, which makes strip piecing so fast. I recommend using some sort of seam guide on your machine so that you can just put this at the 1/4 inch mark against the seam guide and you don't have to focus too hard. And you can power sew, and I usually go a couple inches. I stop, I realign and make sure my edges are still lined up and go a few more inches and stop, realign. So that if you're doing one of these that's 42 inches long, you're getting all the way down and you're making sure the whole length you've got your edges straight, okay? If you are going to continue to sew strips on, you're going to do more than 2 together, then it's important that I mark which one end as my quote top, and I sew from top to bottom on one strip. When I come back and add the next strip, I flip it over and sew from bottom to top. If you've ever experienced, if you go the same direction, by the time you get to about the 5th strip, your strips are doing this. They're distorting out of shape. So if you go opposite directions, that'll keep that strip set nice and straight, okay? Now, once you've sewn a strip on, the next trip is to press it. And it's important when you're pressing that you don't stretch out the strip. You want to be very careful not to go off the raw edges. I've sewn this at a 1/4 inch. We normally press to the darker side. But your pattern may tell you which fabric to press towards. But go ahead, and I'm going to press towards the red on this one. And I'm going to put it down with the red on top. Okay? Get her adjust the camera. And then what happens is, if I open this up, I can kind of finger press it open, and then all I'm going to do is take my iron and I am just going to slide it against the seam. I'm not going to rub my iron back and forth, I'm just setting the seam, okay? And then I'm going to slide this one over again, And notice that I just want to be able to make sure that seam is pressed to one side without going off the edges and distorting the outside edges. Okay, so you can see that seam is pressed to the red now. All right, now the next magic happens on the cutting mat. They always tell you when you're strip piecing what size you need to cut these units. Okay, well, neither of these ends are straight, so I am going to take my ruler and I am going to place my straight line on my ruler on the fold. We are not going to pay attention to the outside edges. We want every cut to be perpendicular to the fold because these still can distort a little bit as we work with them, but our seam is going to be what we want to be straight. So I've got this on here and I'm going to do what I call clean cutting. I'm going to trim that edge. So now this edge, sorry, you should always close that to put it down. This edge is perpendicular to here. Now I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to start cutting the sizes they say were cut. So I'm going to say that we want 2.5 inch segments. So I find my 2.5 inch line, which is right here, and I have my straight line right there on the fold again so that I know these two edges are going to be perpendicular to that, so that'll be straight in the quilt. And I'm going to cut my first one. Okay, and there's one. Now I'm going to line up the next one, and again I'm lining up this and this. That looks good. Now if any point you're cutting you can't get this to be straight on the fold and the outside edge to be straight and straight, then you need to clean cut the edge. And this right now, it looks like it's a little off. So I'm just going to come over here, and it's got a little bit of a bulge in it. So I'm just going to take that little bit off and I'm going to start again. So anytime you can't seem to get them to be straight to each other, just flip it and clean cut it again. And there's another one, and I'll do one more so you can see what I'm doing. And there we go, and cut that. And so that is how we cut a strip set. Now, if there were 10 different strips on there, we'd pick one of the seams in the middle and line up to that seam every time. And hopefully if you've sewn straight, they'll be straight all the way across. But that's strip piecing. And then after this, it's a matter of looking at the pattern and having it tell you where you're going to put these pieces. And like I said, sometimes they're the same width, sometimes one's wider than the other, sometimes you're doing 3 or 4 strips at the same time. So, but man, you can whip out a quilt really fast with strip piecing.